Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of May. So we'll get straight into it. First up is a film that I thought was really good, from Vinegar Syndrome. It's All American Murder, and this is about these killings that take place on this prestigious university, and they blame them on this tearaway student played by Charlie Splatter, who was really cool. I don't see him in much things. I think the only thing I've seen him in was Police Academy 7, but he's really good in this, and he has to try and find out who's actually doing the killings before the police arrest him. Christopher Walken's in it as well as the detective, and he's amazing in this. But yeah, this one was a bit of a hidden gem. I really had fun watching this. It's very cheesy. It's from the early 90s, and it has some very 90s tropes in it, which I enjoyed seeing anyway. But yeah, this one kind of took me by surprise a bit. Nothing all that special, but surprisingly enjoyable kind of murder thriller film with aspects of slasher elements in it as well. Right, next up from 101 Films, we have Brain Dead. Not the Peter Jackson gore fest. This is a sci-fi horror film. It stars Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton, who are reliable as ever. And Bill Pullman, he's like this scientist tapping into this guy's brain because his company wants some information from him or something like that. But it all gets very weird, and he starts sort of going to different places in time and things like that. It's okay, it's not bad. I did quite like the the fact that he keeps popping up in different times and dimensions. Was a bit complicated to follow, but not too bad. Surprising. It's weird that this film has this kind of special edition treatment. It's not a film that kind of warrants that all that much, if I'm being brutally honest. Although this is a really nice edition, but yeah, not too bad. Not too bad a film. Okay, next up from Arrow is Kautiki, the Immortal Monster. So this is like a black and white monster movie from the 60s. This one's not too bad. It was very kind of... it dragged a bit in the first half, but in the second half the monster comes into it, and it's like this gelatinous blob monster that starts to get bigger and bigger and take over this house. And that was really cool. And what's interesting is, I think Mario Bava had something to do with this film, so it has quite a few sort of Mario Bava touches in a stylistic sense, but it's about this blob-style monster, so you don't often see those two elements come together. So first half of this is a bit of a drag, but second half was really enjoyable. Right, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have The Cellar. So this family move into this house, and there's a monster in the cellar, and it stems from these native Indian legends, I believe, if I remember right. And the boy who moves in, he discovers it, and he's trying to kill it, and nobody believes him, and things just become more and more intense until people start getting killed off, and the family have to fight this monster. It's not too bad. The monster comes into it at the end, and it looks pretty good. So yeah, another one that was pretty alright, to be honest. Okay, next up from Toxic Filth Video, we have Chainsaw Cheerleaders. Not watched this one yet. It looks to be like a real low budget indie type gore movie, so hopefully it will be enjoyable. But what's cool about this DVD is there are only 50 of these produced, and I have 50 out of 50. So I got the last one, which is really cool. I've always wanted to get either number 1 or the last of the batch. So got the last one with this, which is pretty awesome. Right, next up is this VCI? I think so, yeah. We have Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. So this has been recommended to me a few times by my viewers, so I thought I'd pick it up. It's directed by Bob Clark, who is one of the most underrated directors, in my opinion. And this one, The first half of this, I struggled with it a bit. There's a lot of talking, and they try and be like funny, and I just wasn't getting into it, and I thought I was going to struggle with the film. But the second half, when the zombies come into it, is fantastic. And to be honest, this has some of the best zombie action I've ever seen in a film. It really picks up in the second half. So overall, I really did enjoy this film. Glad to finally pick it up and check it out. So thank you to anyone that's recommended this one in the past. Next up, from Redemption, we have this box set, The Cinema of Gene Rollin, the Vampire Collection. So this features 4 vampire movies. It's got Rape of the Vampire, The Nude Vampire, Shiver of the Vampires, and Requiem for a Vampire. So really nice set here from Redemption. I've seen a few Gene Rollin films, and they're a bit weird, a bit dreamlike, but I don't think I've seen any of these, so I'll look forward to dipping into these very soon. But I'm particularly interested to see Rape of the Vampire, because from what I've read, it was quite an amateur production, and I think they managed to lose the script sort of 2 days into it. So Gene Rollin, he just had to go with it, and the majority of the film is improvised. So I mean, his movies are weird enough, so heaven knows what the finished product of that one's like. So yeah, looking forward to checking these out soon. Right. Okay, next up we have Clown togeist. So I've seen this one on Jason from Horrific Nightmares. This has been on his What's in the Bag episode, and I couldn't resist a film called Clown togeist. Watched it a couple of nights ago. It's okay. It's surprisingly, it's played straight. It's not like a jokey, gimmicky film, which I thought a film called Clown togeist would be. But it's so yeah, it's simply these killer clowns, sort of demon-y clown things stalking this girl and her friend. Starts out really good. Didn't hold my interest all the way through, I'll be honest, but there's some decent moments in it. A few moments that made me jump. The clown looks okay, but he moves really strangely. He's always kind of like in a weird sort of crouch position, and I don't know why. But yeah, not too bad. Pretty good sort of low budget indie type stuff. Right, next up from Arrow, we have The Cold Light of Day. This is a British film, I think, from the 80s, about a serial killer. I think it's a real life case. I think it was Lauren's collection watched this and she thought it was terrible. So, kind of, I haven't watched it yet. It's not made me in a rush to see it. I've had other films that I wanted to watch before this, but we'll have to see. I'll give it a watch and I'll see what it's like myself. But let me know if you've seen this one and what you thought. Okay, next up from Olive Films, we have Creature. One that I wanted to see for a long time, so finally managed to get hold of this one. I really want to watch it. I've not watched it yet because I think it's 3 hours long, if I read the running time correctly. So pretty long film, this one, but I'll definitely be setting some time aside to give this one a watch soon. Right, next up I picked up Critters 4, which is not a particularly good movie. Definitely the worst one in the Critters series, but for some reason I had Critters 1, 2, 3 and Critters Attack. I just never got Critters 4, so just picked this up cheap to complete that collection. Right, next up from Scream Factory, we have Dead Ringers. So this was a first time watch for me, a David Cronenberg film, and I thought this was really good. This one didn't disappoint at all. So Jeremy Irons, he plays identical twin brothers, and they're like fertility doctors, and things just start to go really wrong for them, and it gets rather weird, and they start to use their identical twinness to their advantage, and you never quite know which one's which. But and one of them's a lot more kind of mild mannered, the other one's a bit more unpredictable, and yeah, things just kind of go into a bit of a downward spiral for them both. But this, I was very impressed with this film. It's felt like a bit of a step up for David Cronenberg. It's more of a more of kind of like a glossy mainstream production rather than like the gooey body horrors of sort of The Fly and Videodrome. Or there is sort of body horror aspects to this as well. But I have to say, Jeremy Irons' performance in this was staggeringly good. He was amazing, playing twin brothers who were absolutely identical, yet you could tell their personalities were different. And I honestly forgot for most of the film that I was only watching one actor. It really felt like they were two separate people. So this is a good film, but worth watching alone for Jeremy Irons. He was remarkable in it. So glad to finally check that one out. Okay, next up from Scream Factory, we have The Deadly Mantis. So another one of these kind of fun 50s creature feature movies. Not watched this one yet. I'll probably watch this on a Sunday morning or something like that. But I'm sure I'll enjoy this one. I do like my 50s monster movies. Okay, next up from Arrow, one of their recent releases. This is Death Has Blue Eyes. This is from Nico Masterakis, who did like Island of Death and Zero Boys and things like that. This one's okay. It's alright. It's about this woman, she has like psychic powers, and there's like these kind of criminal guys going around and she's tapping into them and things like that. It's not bad. It's very, very cheesy. It's very 70s. A lot of 70s cheesiness in this, which somewhat detracted from the film for me. A bit all over the place. So yeah, not great. I wouldn't pay full price for this one, but yeah, it's all right. Okay, next up from Slasher Video, we have Death Nurse. So some shot on video trash. This set in this sort of care home thing with this nurse who just kind of goes around killing the patients in this gleeful manner. It's shot on video, so if you've seen those kind of films, you know what to expect. Just zero budget garbage. But I did kind of enjoy this one. It was one of the more enjoyable shot-on-video films that I've seen, and couldn't help laughing at the death nurse and a weird maniacal laughter and things like that. So yeah, not too bad if you're into shot-on-video stuff. And then I also picked up Death Nurse 2, which is the same kind of thing pretty much. I made the mistake of watching these films back to back, because they're only, I think, just over an hour long. But what I didn't take into account was, essentially, I watched like a 2-hour shot-on-video movie, which is pretty hard going to put yourself through that, watching these movies back to back. But it's not a bad film. They're pretty much the same kind of thing. If you enjoy the first, you'll enjoy the second one. But I wouldn't recommend watching them both together like I did. It started to feel my brain phase away after a bit. Okay, next up from Severin, we have Deep Blood. So another one of their Italian killer shark rip-off movies. Not watched this one yet, but if this one is as good as Severin's previous release, Cruel Jaws, I'm sure I'm in for a unintentionally hilarious fun time. So I'll really look forward to watching this one when I get the time. Right, next up we have Direct-to-Video, which is a documentary about the direct-to-video horror films of the 90s, and is a very fun documentary, very interesting stuff, a candid look at the making of and the release of several really good 90s horror films. So there's a lot of things on like Full Moon movies, Puppet Master, Demonic Toys, things like that. They talk about The Dentist, Sorority House Massacre, all those kind of really good 90s movies that just came straight out onto video. And it was a really good chance to hear more about those films that you don't really hear much rhetoric about. So they brought back a lot of the actors and directors and producers, and yeah, very interesting to hear how those movies came about, and the amount of work that goes into them as well was surprising. You kind of look at them as just throwaway direct-to-video movies, but there's a lot of work went into them. So yeah, very interesting documentary. I would definitely recommend this if you do like learning more about movies behind the scenes. So yeah, really good stuff there. Right, next up we have some extreme horror, or more extreme exploitation I should say. From Blue Underground we have Emmanuel in America, which is more like just a shock movie. Laura Gemser, who played Black Emmanuel, she goes around America as a photographer, sort of just capturing everything from like fashion shoots to just weird ceremonies and practices and things like that. There's a little subplot where she kind of comes across these people that are distributing snuff movies, and I can't tell if the footage is real or not. It looks pretty strong, it's pretty well done, but I can't tell if it's real or not. But yeah, there's a few unpleasant things in this, but probably not one that I'll watch again, and not really because it was all that shocking. It was just not all that interesting, quite frankly. But glad to have it, because it's one of those films that just like, they will never make this kind of film again. So interesting to see it the one time. Right, next up from Kino, we have $5 for an August Moon, which I'm assuming is a Giallo film. It has to be a Giallo film with a title like that. And I've said before, I'm not too fussed on Giallos. Some of them they struggle to hold my interest, but this one is Mario Bava, so if anyone can do a film that I like, it's him. So we'll see what that's like. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, from the VSA line, we have Grave Secrets. Not great, if I'm honest. Very kind of plodding movie. Not a lot happens. Pretty uninteresting. Got to say, I haven't been impressed with these VSA releases. They are really nice releases, come in a beautiful slipcover box thing, but I don't think I've seen one yet that I truly enjoyed. So it's unfortunate, but again, as a collector, it's definitely nice to have these. It's really good to pick them up and have them in the collection, but yeah, the movies haven't been up to that much, unfortunately. Right, next up we have Greta, which is a film that has seemed to go really under the radar, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really well made. So in this, Chloe Grace Moretz, she is this kind young woman that finds a handbag on the subway. She returns it to the owner, who lives round the corner from her, and the owner's like this kind of elderly spinster woman that's all on her own, has no friends. So Chloe Grace Moretz kind of takes compassion on her. They spend some time together and they develop a bit of a friendship and enjoy the companionship. But you learn that this old woman, she's got some dark secrets and she's not what she appears to be. And when the younger woman tries to break away, she goes all cable guy on her. And some pretty creepy stuff in this. And yet this one, it was really effective. It really got under my skin, because I don't like unwanted socialness. I don't like the idea of someone latching on and not leaving me alone. And this was done really well and really creepily. And the two actresses in the lead roles were really good. So very good film. And from Neil Jordan as well. So didn't even know he'd done another film. So I definitely recommend this. I thought it was a really good film. So yeah, let me know if you've seen this one. Right, next up from Toxic Filth, we have Haunters of the Dark. Very weird, trippy, psychedelic kind of movie. I have no idea what it's about. Zero budget, so difficult to recommend this one. I don't know who would enjoy it. It's just very weird. So yeah, don't really have much more to say about that one. Right, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have the fantastic Homegrown Horrors box set. So, like the Forgotten Jolly box set, same kind of style. So it comes with Fatal Exam, which I think I've heard of, Beyond Dream's Door, which I've never heard of, and then Winter Beast, which I have seen Winter Beast. Winter Beast is a gloriously low budget creature feature with sort of like claymation style effects. So really nice to see that one get a nice Blu-ray treatment from Vinegar Syndrome. So that's Winter Beast. Awesome artwork there with that creature ripping someone's head off. Then we have Fatal Exam. Nice artwork on that one as well. And then we have Beyond Dreams Door. So yeah, looking forward to watching the two that I've never seen. And that reminds me, I'll be going on to the Vinegar Syndrome website after I've done this video to pick up a few things in the sale. So next up, from Unearthed Films, I have a Japanese zombie film called Junk. So this was reviewed on the Wacky World Lounge a few months ago. If you're not subscribed to the Wacky World Lounge, definitely check him out. He does some amazing, fun, informative movie reviews. Really cool channel. But he recommended Junk as a zombie film that no one really seems to talk about, and I've never heard anyone mention this one. And it's pretty good stuff. Some really good zombie effects in it. So it's like this bank robbery goes wrong, and the criminals, they go to like this industrial warehouse which is housing these zombies, and the usual kind of zombie fear ensues. But yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't care too much for the talking bits, but the zombie action in it was great, and I really liked the setting as well. It seemed to suit the movie rather well. So great recommendation from the Wacky World Lounge, and yeah, one that I enjoyed. Right, next up we have Killing Spree. So this was given to me by 80s film fan Steve. Thank you very much for this, mate. He gave me this while we went out one weekend Blu-ray hunting. So not had a chance to watch this yet, but I will be giving it a watch very soon. So thank you again, Steve, for that. He gave me a few other things as well. Right, next up from Arrow is the Lake Michigan Monster. Which I wasn't too fussed on watching this. I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, but it was I think it was £7 in HMV with the slipcase, so I didn't want to leave it for that. It's a strange one. It's a very low budget amateur affair, black and white, and it's like a bit of a zany comedy about this sea captain going out to capture the Lake Michigan Monster. I have to be honest, the humour on this one was not really for me. It didn't make me laugh as much as I think the filmmakers thought it would. The sea captain was pretty funny. I'll give him credit. He did make me laugh a few times, but on the whole, it was a bit of a missed humour for me personally. It says on the back of the case that it's in the same style as Mystery Science Theatre. It isn't. It was nowhere near as funny as Mystery Science Theatre, so don't fall for that ploy. But yeah, very kind of niche humour, I think, this one. It won't appeal to many people, if I'm honest. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have Last Gasp, which is a film I'd never heard of. I didn't know this existed until Vinegar Syndrome put it out, but I did think it was a pretty good film. There's another one that surprised me. So Robert Patrick is like this land developer, and he builds on this land and kind of kills this sort of native Indian chief, and they just use all that Indian land to build things. But he becomes cursed by this like native Indian spirit, and it makes him kind of sort of become one of them and kill people off, and sort of just kind of changes his personality and things like that. I really liked it. I can see why the movie never took off. I can see why I've not heard of it before. It's nothing special, but some pretty interesting concepts. I'd like to see more kind of concepts like this with that native Indian curse thing. And Robert Patrick was amazing in it. He was really good. So credit to him. So yeah, not a bad release there from Vinegar Syndrome. Right, next up from Shudder is the Mortuary Collection. I watched this last night and really enjoyed this. Thought this was a fantastic anthology. Clancy Brown plays this old sort of like Crypt Keeper style mortician at this mortuary, and he tells this young girl who wants a job, he tells her these weird tales that have happened in the past in the town that they're in. And yeah, really good stuff. Very kind of oldie-fashioned, but has a modern twist on things. The film looks amazing. I've not really seen many horror films look like this, and it's hard to describe. It kind of looks like a whimsical Hollywood fantasy, like Harry Potter style look in terms of its cinematography, but of course it's a horror film. But another really good film from Shudder. Shudder at the moment are knocking it out of the park. They are probably the best outputters of modern horror, in my opinion. I don't know, I just seem to really like the things that Shudder do, and this one was no exception. Okay, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have Nightmare Weekend. This was such a weird one, such a strange film of this guy. He's made like a supercomputer that makes people not do bad things, turns them more kind of righteous, if you will. But it's all over the place. It's so bizarre. The computer is operated by a hand puppet kind of thing with no explanation as to why. A lot of things don't make sense. Yeah, it's not great in that respect. It is very 80s. It has a lot of 80s charm, which I appreciated. And Vinegar Syndrome have just released this again with the slipcover. So if you want to check it out, it is now available with a nice slipcover. But it's a weird one. It's very weird. Okay, next up from Vinegar Syndrome again is Old Dracula, which is like a kind of a campy 70s Dracula film with David Niven as the Count. It's pretty good. It made me smile in a few places. It has a lot of recognisable 70s actors and British TV actors, and David Niven's really good as the Count in a kind of silly kind of way. The only thing that made me cringe with this is in the story he's trying to resurrect his dead wife, and he uses blood from like women that visit his castle, but he accidentally uses the blood of a black woman to bring his wife back. So when she comes back, she's black, and the Count's not too happy with this. So the rest of the film is him trying to turn his black wife into a white woman, which you can see how problematic that would be watching this in 2021. So I'll leave that there. But it was kind of enjoyable in like a campy carry-on sort of way, and I really like the slipcase from Vinegar Syndrome. This is one of the really sort of nicest slipcases that they've done. Right, next up from Severin we have Pedita Durango, which is another one that Steve, 80s Film Fan, gave me. Thank you again, Steve, really appreciate this. Not had a chance to watch this yet. It sounds crazy, very intrigued as to what this one's going to be like, so I'll give it a watch soon. It's from the same director as Day of the Beast, so yeah, we'll see what that's like. Right, next up from Troma we have Revenge of the Spaceman. Very, very low budget kind of rural type horror film about these spacemen creatures that come down and just attack the town, and a few like hillbilly types fighting them back. It's okay, but it's like zero budget. You've got to be okay with really kind of amateurish, silly filmmaking. I had a laugh watching it, but it's nothing special. Nice to get something from Troma though. I don't think I've got anything from them for a while. Next up from Scream Factory we have The Resurrected, which is a pretty good movie. Chris Sarandon is like trying to resurrect the dead, and it all goes a bit wrong and things like that. Wasn't too bad. Very ambitious plot, very ambitious film. They kind of cram maybe a bit too much in, but it's not too bad. And towards the end it gets really good, and there's some really good practical effects in it, which I appreciated. And I can watch Chris Sarandon in anything as well. So yeah, plenty of merit to that one. Right, next up from 101 Films, I haven't watched this yet, but it looks very intriguing. It's Room 237, and it's like an analytical documentary about The Shining. And from what I've read, it's kind of like, I think it's sort of like genuine and fictional as well, where they look into hidden meanings and things like that. I don't know, I need to give this one a watch. But it sounds very, very interesting, and I found this in HMV, very cheap. So yeah, looking forward to watching this and seeing what they actually do with it. If you've seen room 237. Let me know what you thought of it. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have Rush Week, which was an enjoyable slasher film. Pretty fun stuff, just a killer going around on a campus. This kind of hooded killer here with an oldie-fashioned axe. I really like the look of the killer in this one, and yeah, it was entertaining enough. Not a bad release from Vinegar Syndrome there. Right, next up we have Salems Lot. I've had this in the collection for years. I've just got the Blu-ray to replace the awful snapper case, which, like all of those, have been damaged and banged up. So I found the Blu-ray cheap, and I'm just replacing that with the snapper case. Salem's Lot's one of my favourite movies. One of the best TV movies ever made. I would say maybe the best. But yeah, great movie. Okay, next up, some extreme horror. In fact, the most disturbing movie I've ever seen. The most disgusting movie I've ever seen. From Criterion, of all people. We have Salem, or the 120 Days of Sodom. So Pier Paolo Pasolini's shock epic. I have done a more in-depth review of this on my channel. So if you want to know more of what I thought and the political and social theories behind this movie, feel free to check that out. But a very, very tough watch. Pushed me to the brink, I'll be honest. Not one I want to revisit anytime soon. Right, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have Satan's Blood. I meant to get this a while ago, but I forgot to include it in my Vinegar Syndrome order, so I got it recently. I've heard it's good, not had a chance to check it out yet, but I've heard it is a fun one from Vinegar Syndrome. Right, next up from Arrow, we have Shram, so German film from Jörg Buchwright. Haven't watched this yet. I'm not a huge fan of Jörg's films, if I'm honest. They're often very, very bleak and downbeat. Necromantic was pretty interesting, and this one looks interesting, to be fair. I will be giving it a watch soon. But this was the special edition, and I found it's like £14 in HMV, so not a bad price for this, because I think it probably will go out of print eventually. But yeah, I'm expecting some pretty bleak, dark stuff from this one. Next up from 101 Films, we have Screamers, which was the first time watch for me. I've seen of this film quite a lot, but never got around to watching it. So Peter Weller, he's like in this dystopian future planet, and he's fighting these like metal killer robots that run around under the ground. Pretty good stuff. It reminded me of like a high-tech sci-fi version of Tremors. It was kind of like that. So yeah, pretty fun. Next up from Indicator, we have See No Evil. Again, this is one that I've wanted to watch for a while. Not had a chance to watch it yet. Just got it in the other day, so I'll be checking this one out soon. Don't know much about it. It's just one that I want to see what it's like. Right, next up from Toxic Filth, we have Splatter, which purports to be the first gore film from somewhere. The first gore film from Ukraine. And yeah, they're pretty good. Zero budget, kind of just some guy going around killing people, so lots of splatter and bloodshed. The subtitles on this, I don't know who did the subtitles, but every single line was incorrect. It was either spelt wrong or the punctuation was wrong. So whilst I think you were supposed to be quite shocked by the gore, I just found myself laughing at the subtitles. So yeah, but there's 50 of these again, and I got number 40. So yeah, very kind of limited run of those. Next up from 101 is Spring. So Spring, I struggle with this one, to be honest. It's about this guy. He goes to Italy, I think, or France, somewhere in Europe, and he meets this woman. She's a bit strange, but they get on and fall in love. But it turns out she is like a H.P. Lovecraft tentacled monster. But yeah, this one, it's very heavy, very emotional stuff here. It's very much a film that deals with the themes of loss and grief and things like that. The guy's just lost his mum. His mum's just died, which was pretty tough. And yeah, it's not a film about slimy H.P. Lovecraft monsters. We'll put it that way. It is more of a character study and an emotionally driven themed film. Very well made film. Nothing against what they did. It's just some of the themes in this I personally found quite hard going. But yeah, interesting one. Next up from Code Red, we have The Strangeness. This is another one from Steve, 80s film fan. Thank you so much, mate. So this is a monster film from the early 80s about these people. They go into this mine. I don't know what they're doing down there now. They're doing something down there, digging for something, but there's a monster down there that's killing them off. It's quite a slow burn. It's a slow film, which I usually don't kind of like in creature features much, but what I liked about this was how they utilised the atmosphere and things like that. It's very dark and claustrophobic, and they really managed to tap into that very well, which is good for like a B-movie monster film. And the monster itself comes out at the end. It's like a claymation looking thing. Pretty good stuff. So yeah, nice to finally get The Strangeness, because it's not one that you see around hardly at all. Next up is Subhuman. This was terrible. Very, very boring. Nothing but talking scenes. I switched it off, which I don't like doing, but it was so bad. I couldn't be doing with it. Next up from Anchor Bay is Super Hybrid, so a killer car movie. Not watched it yet. Looks like quite a high-tech affair. So yeah, I'll give this one a watch soon. See what it's like. Next up, a Holy Grail purchase. I did show this off quickly earlier in the month, but from Olive Films we have Ticks, the long out of print, almost impossible to find Blu-ray. I had to pay out for it, I will say that, but I watched it and absolutely loved it. This was absolutely my kind of film. It was wonderful. So like big mutant ticks, lots of practical effects, lots of like gory, gooey effects as well, which was fantastic. I love the woodland setting. Yeah, amazing movie. So glad to find it and then like it as much as I did. So yeah, really fun film. If you can see it and you have the money, I recommend it. Next up from Eureka, we have Troll and Troll 2. So I've seen Troll 2, the infamous Troll 2. I've never seen the first Troll, so when I saw this on Amazon, I just thought I'd pick it up. So looking forward to seeing the first one, which I believe is completely different from the second one. So it'll be interesting to see what that's like. Next up from Arrow, we have 2000 Maniacs. So I just saw this cheap in HMV. Just another one of these Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. They're not great, but I've got quite a few of his films, so I'm just adding to the Herschel Gordon Lewis filmography. And then the last movie for this month from Arrow again is The Witch Who Came from the Sea. So an official video nasty in this country, and one that I didn't own, so I wanted to pick this one up. Pretty interesting film as well. Not the kind of gory trash that its video nasty label would suggest. It's more of a character study of this kind of like quietly unhinged woman that has a problem with men and things like that, and does violent acts towards them. Not too bad. Pretty interesting stuff. Quite a sombre feel of a film. So that's everything I got this month, guys. As always, feel free to let me know what you think of any of these movies. Thank you for watching such a long video, and stay tuned for more videos.